The story was told by my friend named Frog. Frog said that at that time, he was only 6 or 7 years old and had just finished the school year. Because Frog's parents were busy with work in the city. During winter and summer breaks, Frog would stay with his grandparents in a small town in the district. On the day of the incident, Frog was sound asleep next to his grandma, and it was probably already midnight. Suddenly, Frog felt like there was something staring at him, a strange and peculiar sensation. The feeling of being stared at intensely woke Frog up slowly. But when he opened his eyes, everything was pitch black, and after getting used to the darkness there, Frog looked around. Frog turned his eyes around to find the source of this strange feeling, until Frog saw a large wooden cabinet across the bed. There was something black lying on top of it, and this eerie feeling originated from there. At first, Frog thought it was just an object, but upon closer inspection, he realized that there was something truly unsettling about it. It resembled a deflated balloon, lacking a body and appearing vague. Then it slowly materialized, and the features on its face resembled a wrinkled and unpleasant expression. Gradually, those expressions became increasingly fierce and terrifying. Frog immediately trembled with fear and pulled the blanket to cover himself almost entirely. Despite that, Frog was still terrified. No matter how small he was, when seeing those things, surely everyone would be scared because Frog's grandfather often told him stories about ghosts. Frog dared not look up there anymore, so he pulled the blanket tightly and covered himself completely. But he still felt intensely watched. Frog told his grandma about it the next morning, and she became worried upon hearing it, then hurriedly called his grandfather. His grandfather furrowed his brow after hearing this and took a package of newspaper from the top of the cabinet. Frog's grandfather, who liked to find old things and created a collection of antique items, but in reality, it was just a pile of worthless things. Then his grandfather carefully opened the package, revealing a clay jar inside. However, as soon as the jar was opened, Frog had a very bad premonition. Then the grandfather put the item away, but Frog didn't know where he put it and thought it was over. 4 or 5 days later, Frog drank a lot of water before going to bed. As a result, in the middle of the night, unable to hold it any longer, Frog got up to go to the bathroom. At that moment, Frog suddenly noticed that a basement door had opened, and inside, there was a faint blue light emitted. At only 7 or 8 years old, Frog had a horrifying curiosity, so he pushed the door open and looked inside. Surprisingly, when Frog opened the door, the blue light suddenly disappeared, and since it was still quite dark outside, Frog happened to turn on the light. But there was nothing in the basement, and there was no movement, so Frog thought maybe he saw it wrong and turned off the light to go back to bed. However, as soon as the light went out, Frog noticed that something seemed to be hiding in the dark corner of the basement and staring at him. Fearful, Frog quickly turned on the light again, but when the light came on, there was still nothing inside. As soon as the light went out again, a dark shadow with eerie red eyes suddenly appeared. Frog turned on the light again, but didn't see anything. Frog didn't know what was happening. In an instant, Frog felt his hair standing on end, and the feeling of fear became intense and unstoppable. Immediately after, Frog's hand trembled, and he turned off the light once more. Unexpectedly, underneath, 2 strange red spots appeared. In the moment of darkness, an image of a pale, distorted face was charging towards Frog. Frog's heart suddenly tightened, and his nerves, stretched to the limit, finally snapped. A loud scream echoed throughout the house. After the scream, Frog passed out, and what happened next was recounted by his grandma when he grew up. At that time, his grandparents woke Frog up. Seeing Frog unconscious, his grandma immediately got angry and scolded his grandfather. It turned out that a few days earlier, Frog's grandfather didn't want to throw away the jar, so he left it in the basement. That night, Frog's grandparents couldn't wake Frog up, so they had to call a witch from the town to awaken him. After Frog woke up, he had a high fever for 2 days, but after the fever subsided, he never saw that terrifying thing again. Although this happened a long time ago, every time he recalls those scenes, Frog still gets goosebumps. Frog said that he would never dare to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom again. My friends and I asked Frog what the jar was and if it was a normal jar. Frog replied that he didn't know, and it seems like his grandparents had thrown the jar away. Perhaps the situation was resolved by the witch. The village we lived in had many eerie secrets that we only heard vaguely about. Moreover, it was a forbidden mountainous area, where many valuable artifacts were buried from ancient times, adding to the supernatural elements. It seems that there are terrifying things existing in our homes that we have yet to see.